Good morning today, and welcome to the last week of 2020's devotions. Today we're heading into Exodus 18, a pretty interesting passage, and one of the main characters is Jethro, the priest of Midian and father-in-law of Moses. As a side note, if you ever want to do a little character study of biblical characters, Jethro is a great one. Several names, interesting backstory. On top of that, a wise and helpful character in the Exodus story. And so he brings Moses, his family, and they greet each other and talk together, and their discussions bring about praise of God and reflection on the mightiness of God's hand over Israel. And it seems through these words that Jethro has a spirit and a relationship with Moses that is godly and beautiful. And the second half of this passage, we find Jethro giving some strong guidance to Moses as he sees that Moses is completely in charge of all the ruling, the judging of Israel. And it's not particularly because that's too much power for one man, but Jethro says that it is too much of a burden for one man. And so Jethro suggests that Moses would raise up holy people in Israel to do different levels of judging over the people. And so Moses does take this, and in the end, Moses still does take up the most difficult cases in the land, but he does have capable men who fear God. Men who fear God, trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain, as it's written in the NIV, to take over the judging of these smaller and smaller groups of people. And we see this as a blessing to Moses, as a building up of Israel as a godly nation, as an opportunity to train people up in the ways of God. It also seems a little bit of the state side, the bureaucratic side of a theocracy, a religious government. And by the end of this passage, Jethro goes back home as Moses seems to have things more under control. And so I would like to take note of just a couple of things of this new system that Moses emplaces, and that is they select capable men from all the people who fear God and who hate dishonest gain. And so I just reflect a little bit on how sometimes we overcomplicate God's will and his expectations for us. And yet, to govern his nation, the main attributes are that they would just fear God and that they would hate dishonest gain. So, Lord, today I pray that we would check our hearts and our lives, that we would reject our norms and our societies, and things we've heard and things we've been taught. And Lord, I pray that you would sober us to see where in our lives we have pride instead of fear of God, where we have fear of people instead of fear of God, where we have selfishness instead of fear of God. And Lord, would you teach us to be a people who hate dishonest gain, profiting from the vulnerable, deception, lying, getting ahead, but that we would be truly contented and overjoyed with whatever we're given from you. Amen.